most tragic event in my entire life, which was placing me in a prison cell and almost for the rest of my life. I just missed that because I did face the remainder of my life in prison. And how that happens, just to take a short detour, how that happens is each time you commit an armed robbery, it's a 10-year statute. Each time a gun was used in the commission of a crime, it's an additional 5 years. If you have 10 armed robberies, that's 150 years. And I did face that 150 years. And I know people who went to trial and gambled and lost and are still serving that same 100, 150, 200. They're still there for armed robberies. So it does happen. So getting back on track, I realized that this being the worst tragedy of my life turned into the biggest blessing in disguise. I think Churchill said at some point or another, there was a tragedy in his life where his daughter said it's a disguise. It's a blessing in disguise. And he said, it's absolutely brilliantly disguised. You know, this was brilliantly disguised as well, because it's very hard to see the penitentiary where people are killing each other as a blessing, but it was. Although it was brilliantly disguised, it was the biggest blessing in my life once I found books, because now I had 18 hours a day to read. And I read. I carried a book to the chow hall. I carried a book to the yard. I carried a book everywhere I went. I was never without a book. And then also, too, I mean, God put things in my way. I had just finished reading War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, and I went to the bathroom, and there was a broken urinal in the penitentiary in the bathroom. And in that broken urinal, which wasn't, there was no urine in it for I don't know how long. It's probably broken for years. So I washed off the book, but I literally took Anna Karenina out of the broken urinal and walked back to my cell, washed it off, and started reading Anna Karenina. What are the odds you found Anna Karenina after you finished War and Peace in a broken urinal in a penitentiary? These were things that got in my way, that, the things that are put in my way that you have to wonder. There was another guy, his name was Richard Messina, may he rest in peace. He was a corporate attorney, and he was an absolute brilliant man who was well-read. He was in there for something he shouldn't have been in there for, but he was brilliant in the sense of in literature. He knew everything about literature, and he helped me. So one day I walked up to him and I said, yeah, I'm reading this book, The Red and the Black. It's pretty cool. And he says, Le Rouge et le Noir. What a beautiful book. What is Julian Sorel up to now? And I said, wow, you read that? He says, oh, I may read it again when you're done. Send it to my cell. And then I began paying him visits at his cell, and he would say, did you read this? Did you read that? And he was sort of like a guide, to the Western canon. And, I found all these things, and the more you searched, the more things came to you. And as I said, I was reading 18 hours a day. I fell in love with history. I read history, philosophy. I read religion. I read science. A lot of people fall into the trap where now and then I would ask somebody if they wanted to read something. If they were Spanish, they would want to read Spanish history. If they were Asian, they wanted to read Asian history. And I would turn them on to, here's a biography about Mao Zedong. Here's a biography about Zhou Enlai. Here's a biography about Sun Yat-sen. But I would also say, you should read about other places. Don't just read about your own.